tadi ke presenter yang lain bahwa salah satu presenter kita tidak bisa hadir hari ini. Jadi Bapak Ibu, walaupun ada 20 minutes, kalau memang harus finishing up your presentation, you can have 5 or 10 minutes more.
Right. Hanya nanti saya jam 10:15 menit mengajar ya, Bu Sari.
Oh iya Pak, ya. Mudah-mudahan nanti kita waktunya pas ya untuk Pak Joko untuk melanjutkan kegiatan berikutnya.
Ini karena sudah in the end of semester, kemudian harus ada pemadatan, jadi nggak bisa lagi absen lah itu.
Iya, harus hadir ya Pak ya. Alhamdulillah kami barusan selesai semua Pak.
Ya, kami tanggal 23 harus selesai semua. Jadi maka saya kadang-kadang tadi malam juga kuliah gitu, jadi pemadatan.
Oh.
We just doing grading right now, Pak. Jadi ya, alhamdulillah pertemuan sudah selesai.
Joko, you have another presentation, is it?
Just teaching, Pak Aslam. Teaching my students.
Do you want to go first? I mean, I'm fine.
Really?
I can do that. Yeah. Whatever works for everyone, I can do that.
I think let Prof. Joko, because he may, I don't want him to rush. I'm fine today because I don't work on Saturdays.
Okay.
Okay. If it's good for both of you.
Okay, good.
Yeah, he's the president of TEFLIN. I think it'll be good to have him first.
Yeah, good.
Saya diundang saja.
Saya tadinya agak taruh Pak Joko kedua karena ada kata sambutan, jadi biar tidak back to back. Tapi kalau seandainya ini lebih efisien, silakan saja Prof. Joko bisa yang pertama. Nanti kita tinggal switch.
Right.
Presentation turn-nya.
Pak Aslam, but it is not because of I am president of TEFLIN ya.
No, because it will be good to have the president to start first also. I think, it will kind of, Prof. Joko, you have contributed so much to TEFLIN. I think it is an honor to have you and to start with you, I mean, from the perspective of, international communication, or it is good to have the president first. Yes.
Alright, very well.
Ya, itu kehendak Tuhan ya. Tiba-tiba tidak ada begini. Jadi kita boleh switch. Jadi Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala ini ada banyak caranya untuk memperbaiki sesuatu.
Iya.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
Should we start now? Ya, silakan Nyimas, MC dibuka.
Right, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished presenters, participants, and committees. Welcome to the second SRS-TEFLIN International Webinar, The New Normal in Education, Innovations, and Best Practices in Challenging Times. It is the sixth part of webinar series that Southern Region of Sumatra, TEFLIN, has been conducting since June this year. And previously, last Saturday, we had our first international webinar focusing on the processes and policies of researching multilingually, attended by more than 300 participants in total. And today we are in the second international webinar. First of all, please allow me to introduce myself. I am Nyimas Larasati Utami, the graduate student of English Education Master's Program of Sriwijaya University. And now I am very delighted to be the host, to be given the chance again as the host for today's webinar. All right, so let's just directly come to our first agenda, which is the opening remarks from Professor Huzaimah Dahlandim as the coordinator of SRS-TEFLIN, our role model who has been developing English education in South Sumatra through her continuous dedication and ideas in SRS-TEFLIN events. And this remark will also be continued by Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto MPD as the president of TEFLIN. So the Zoom floor is yours, Ibu Huzaimah.
Okay, Nyimas, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished President of TEFLIN, respected speakers, and all participants of the second SRS-TEFLIN International Webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our second SRS-TEFLIN International Webinar. As the coordinator of SRS-TEFLIN, I feel very, very excited to say that this year, as Nimas has already mentioned a little bit, yeah, our SRS-TEFLIN has already had series of webinars. I think 5 national webinars and 2 international webinars. Alhamdulillah that all of these events have been successfully held because we have a very solid committee which consists of very dedicated professional young TEFLINers. They are Sari Silviani, PhD, Artanti Puspitasari, PhD, Novalingga Pitaloka, MPD, and our current magister's students of English education, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Sriwijaya University, Nimas L. Utami, SPD, Rizky A. Hafiza, SPD, and Hari Utama Putra, SPD, and I myself, the old comer. I myself am the old comer of the committee. Yeah. Okay, but although I am an old comer, yeah, I'm still energetic with high spirit. I call the team as 7 musketeers of SRS-TEFLIN because this year it's a very solid committee, 7 of us. Okay, all of the webinars would not have been successful without the continuous support from our TEFLIN board and all great speakers from all over the world who have fulfilled our invitations. And for today's webinar, I'm very proud to have, unfortunately, only 4 presenters today, Dr. Aslam Khan, Heni Erawati, PhD, Gilang A. Devianti, MA, and the President of TEFLIN, Professor Dr. Joko Nurkamto, MPD, whom we cordially invited to say a few words and later officially open this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the webinar. And as today is our last conference for this year, we are looking forward to having you in our face-to-face conferences in 2021, hopefully, as COVID-19 pandemic goes away. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And please welcome the President of TEFLIN, Professor Joko Nurkamto. Time is yours, Pak Joko.
Okay, Ibu Khuzaimah, thank you very much. The Honorable Area Coordinator of Southern Region of Sumatra, or SRS-TEFLIN, distinguished speakers, dear participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Very good morning to you all. First and foremost, I would like to welcome you all to the second SRS-TEFLIN International Webinar organized by the Southern Regions of Sumatra TEFLIN. On behalf of the National Executive Board of TEFLIN, I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the Honorable Area Coordinator of Southern Regions of Sumatra, Professor Khuzaimah EDD, for her willingness and availability to organize and to host this webinar. I must admit that Prof. Khuzaimah is one of the most active area coordinator of TEFLIN. Thank you very much, Prof. Khuzaimah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay. In addition, I also wish to convey my deepest appreciation to the conference committee. Yeah, you have 7 of you. Very amazing. For all their hard work, which has enabled the success of this webinar. May all their good deeds and hard work be well rewarded by Almighty God, Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Amin. Ya Rabbal Alamin. Ladies and gentlemen, the theme of this webinar is the new normal in education, innovation, and best practices in challenging times. I think the choice of this theme is quite appropriate, bearing in mind that the phenomenon of the COVID-19 pandemic currently taking place, especially in Indonesia, is forcing us to be innovative in planning, implementing, and evaluating our pedagogical practices, especially in English language teaching. I think we have to search for any strategy to make our ELT runs effectively. And this is our duty to, what we call us, to think hard, to be creative, to be innovative in this context. Yeah. One of the aspects of our innovation is the use of technology. I think the creative and wise use of technology is unavoidable. This makes us more aware of the importance of the use of technology in ELT and how important it is for us to have digital literacies. Yeah. I feel sure that all the speakers in the occasions will be able to elaborate well on the above themes. I would like, therefore, to take this opportunity to also thank all of the speakers for their willingness to share their expertise, especially Prof. Aslam Khan from Malaysia, and then Ibu Gilang Asri Devianti from UNJ, is that right? From
SMP.
Oh, from SMP, all right, okay. And then Ibu Heni Herawati, PhD from Sanada Dharma Yogyakarta. And actually, Bapak Carlos Emilio Rojas Ortega, but he's absent today because of the health. Last but not least, allow me to express my highest appreciation to all of the participants who reached 131 at this moment, who are taking part in this webinar. I hope you all enjoy the webinar. By saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I declare that the webinar is officially open. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Joko Nur Kamto, MPD, and Professor Huzaimah Dahlan Dim for delivering the opening remark for today's webinar as the President of TEFLIN and the Coordinator of SRS-TEFLIN. Well, before moving on to the next main agenda, please allow me to announce some information regarding this event. So this webinar can accommodate up to 500 attendees. So just in case you are out of this and unable to access this webinar anymore, or you have trouble with the a connection, so we suggest you to join us from our YouTube live streaming, as we are currently live there, and the YouTube channel is SRS-TEFLIN channel. And if you have questions, you may type them in the Q&A box at any time. The moderator will select some questions pertinent to the presentation to be discussed in the Q&A session. For those who are watching from YouTube, you may also address your questions, and our committee will select the questions and bring it here. For other questions, just like the technical questions, you can type them in the chat box, and we will also read the comments there. If it is not related to the presentation, you may type in the chat box. Our committee will provide the link of the attendance form in the chat box from the beginning of this webinar, and then in the middle and up to the end of our event. The data needed for your e-certificate later will be taken from the attendance form. So, all right, moving on to our main agenda, which is the presentation session. I will hand over this session to our moderator, Dr. Sari Silviani, who is a lecturer at English Education Faculty of Teacher Training and Education, Sriwijaya University. She earned her PhD from the Department of Literacy, Culture, and Language Education at Indiana University, Bloomington, and her master's degree from University of Arizona, Tucson. Her research focuses on transnational and translingual literacies in transcultural spatial development. The Zoom floor is yours, Dr. Sari Silviani.
Thank you very much, Nimas, for your very kind introduction. Distinguished presenters and participants of SRS-TEFLIN, the second international webinar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Good morning to all of us in Indonesia. Good afternoon and good evening to those attendees from outside of Indonesia. I'm very delighted today to be a moderator of this session. We have great presenters today already with us today. So there will be 4 presentations, and we will begin with the first one. But before that, I would like to remind you that throughout the presentation, you may post your questions in the Q&A box. It will be easier for us to select from there instead of from the chat box. So you are welcome to post your questions. And after each presentation, we will have Q&A session. So for each of the presenters, we'll have between 20 to 30 minutes of presentation, followed by the question and answer. For the first presentation, I would like to welcome Professor Djoko Nurkamto, MPD, and a little bit about, I'm sure everyone here are familiar with Professor Djoko. He is the president of TEFLIN, and we've been very lucky to have his support throughout our webinar this year. And I'm very excited that Professor Djoko is able to be one of our presenters in our very last conference this year. Please allow me to read Professor Djoko Nurkamto's short bio. So Professor Djoko Nurkamto is a professor in the Department of English Language Education, the Faculty of Teacher Training and Education at 11 Maret University, Indonesia. He is currently the president of TEFLIN, the Association for the Teaching of English as a Foreign Language in Indonesia. His professional and research interests include language curriculum development and teacher professional development. And today, Professor Djoko will present his topic on the emotional geography of face-to-face learning, what virtual learning cannot offer. The Zoom floor is yours, Mr. Djoko.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Sari. Let me share my screen. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, it's my turn again to speak in this case. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
In this opportunity, I would like to present my topic entitled the emotional geography of face-to-face learning.
Show, please.
All right. Okay. Once again, the emotional geography of face-to-face learning, what virtual learning cannot offer. This is my my part of the research. It is my presentation outline, background of the study, research question, literature review, research methodology, research finding, discussion, and recommendation. The background of the study: on the 2nd March of 2020, the government confirmed that the coronavirus disease or COVID-19 had spread to Indonesia. So the government issued a health protocol policy to prevent the increasing spread of the virus and to safeguard of the community from exposure to the virus. This policy includes, among others, instructions for people, for us, to remain at home unless they have an urgent need to leave it. This unfortunate situation has forced education institutions, like universities, to take the necessary steps to ensure that learning can continue. And one of the steps is to change the mode of learning from face-to-face learning on campus to online or virtual learning in the home. So we have work from home. And I have two research questions. Number one is, how effective is the online mode of learning? And number two, what did the students find was missing in virtual learning? This is the literature review. We have 2 points here. Online learning, also known as open learning, web-based learning, computer-mediated learning and blended learning is a learning experience in synchronous or in asynchronous context using different devices like mobile phones, laptop, and netbooks with internet access. Number 2, emotional geography is a subtopic within human geography, dealing with the relationship between emotion and geographic places and their contextual environment. Emotional geography specifically focuses on how human emotion relate to or affect the environment around them. Research methodology. I use an explanatory qualitative research method, which is a qualitative study, that serves to explain why phenomena occur and the forces and influences that drive their occurrence. I took it from Ricci 2003, Marshall and Roseman 2016, and Flick 2018. A total of 30 students who had been following online lectures participated in this research on a voluntary basis. The research data was qualitative data in the form of the opinion of the research participant about the enactment of online learning over a period of about 9 months from March to December 2020. The data was collected using techniques of guided written reflection and written personal interviews, which were conducted using the WhatsApp application. The data collected was analyzed using an interactive analysis techniques consisting of 4 components: data collection, data condensation, data display, and conclusion. And this is the research finding, Bapak dan Ibu. Some of the research participants acknowledge that learning from home was the best option during this COVID-19 pandemic. This is related to the government's policy, which encourages physical or social distancing in order to protect people from exposure to the coronavirus and prevent the virus from spreading further. One research participant, for example, stated, di masa pandemi seperti ini, pilihan kuliah daring dalam jaringan memang jalan terbaik karena menyangkut kesehatan orang banyak dan diri sendiri. And then a similar opinion was voiced by FNY, who stated, tetapi karena keadaan yang tidak memungkinkan kerumunan banyak orang, mungkin pilihan kuliah daring menjadi langkah yang baik. Okay. However, all the research participants agreed that online learning was not as effective as face-to-face learning on campus in the classroom. This was, for example, expressed by EA, who stated that tergantung kondisi mahasiswa, apakah memang bagus untuk perkuliahan online atau tidak. Tapi menurut pengamatan saya, perkuliahan secara online tidak seefektif perkuliahan di kelas, dikarenakan banyaknya kendala teknis. Using a different choice of word, AA expressed a similar view of to EA, stating that tidak akan ada yang bisa menggantikan interaksi kegiatan belajar mengajar tatap muka antara dosen dan mahasiswa. Karena online class lewat Zoom atau aplikasi video conference lainnya rasanya tidak sama dengan tatap muka secara langsung. Okay, and these are just the example of the opinion set forth by the research participant in terms of the enactment of online learning. And after I identified, then there are some factors which make online learning ineffective. And we have 12, but there are 5, the first 5 factors which are very significant. Number 1 is an unstable internet connection, 80%, expensive cost of internet package, 50%, an inconducive situation at home, 50%, the lack of a fixed schedule, 30%, and too many assignments from lectures, 26.7%. So this is the diagram showing us the factors affecting the ineffective of online learning. I would like to illustrate the 5 factors I have just mentioned. The first is an unstable internet connection, which is very dominant. When students are on campus, they can easily access a high quality internet connection because it is made available by the university for academic purposes. I think it also applies in Sriwijaya University. However, when students follow online lectures in their own home, the situation is quite different because students who happen to live in rural or mountainous areas may experience a problem. Now, this is, for example, started by AK, who stated that perkuliahan daring memerlukan sinyal yang stabil. Sedangkan tidak semua mahasiswa berada di wilayah dengan keterjangkauan sinyal yang kuat dan stabil. Number 2 is expensive cost of internet packages. Another problem that the students find particularly difficult is the expense of purchasing an internet package. This is, for example, expressed by AF, who stated that pengeluaran yang lebih boros untuk membeli pulsa internet. Sedangkan kami terkadang sedang tidak memiliki uang lebih untuk membeli pulsa internet dan harus mencari wifi gratis saat perkuliahan maupun untuk mengupload tugas yang perlu sinyal yang baik. When I ask the students to confirm the amount that they spend on internet package for a month, the answer varied, ranging from 50,000 to 80,000 until 230,000 rupiah per month. So the amount is not the same among the students. But okay. Number 3 is an inconducive situation at home. Another problem that is considered very disturbing is the home situation. The students find not conducive. The inconducive conditions vary, ranging from the sounds made by children in the house, the noise of the neighbor carrying out welding work, the noise of rice machinery, and the sounds of customer at a building material shop. This is described by SRS, for example, as follows. This is a personal interview. Memiliki ruang sendiri, tetapi saya juga memiliki 2 adik yang masih usia SD. Ketika pembelajaran daring berlangsung, adik saya terus bersuara keras atau membuat kebisingan seperti menonton TV dengan suara keras, walau sebelumnya sudah diperingatkan jangan mengganggu saya. Mereka berlarian ke sana kemari dengan mengeluarkan suara keras, membuat saya hilang fokus, Pak. Jadi meskipun saya belajar di ruang sendiri, tetapi masih banyak suara dari luar, saya tetap tidak bisa fokus, Pak. The next is the lack of a fixed schedule. With regard to the lecture schedule, it appears that lecture of a particular subject do not follow the timetable issued by the study program. Lectures change their teaching schedule without coordinating with other lectures. As a result, timetables sometimes clash. This problem was expressed by AF, who said that terkadang secara tiba-tiba ada mata kuliah lain yang muncul tidak sesuai dengan jadwalnya. Sehingga kami pernah pada suatu waktu menyimak 3 grup kelas WA secara bersamaan. The next is too many assignment from lectures. With regard to many assignment, for example, AKH expresses her feeling as follows. Banyak dosen melimpahkan banyak tugas besar yang harus dikerjakan dalam waktu lama. Bahkan hampir setiap perkuliahan, setiap dosen memberi tugas sebagai ganti dari penjelasan. Kami di rumah juga memiliki kewajiban untuk membantu pekerjaan di rumah. Saya sering merasa tidak enak dengan kedua orang tua saya, karena sering dari bangun tidur hingga akan tidur lagi saya harus menatap smartphone atau laptop untuk mengerjakan tugas dan mengesampingkan membantu mereka. Bapak Ibu, this is the interconnectedness of some factors. Ya. Terus, masing-masing faktor tadi bisa saling terkait, bisa saling mempengaruhi. Ya. On close observation, there are several factors that are the cause of other factors. So in fact, this factor do not stand alone, but are interconnected with one another. For example, the numerous assignments given by lecturers and implementations of lectures that are not according to schedule cause students to feel exhausted and unwell. This was expressed by DJ, who stated that saya merasa kuliah daring lebih melelahkan karena terkadang ada kuliah yang tidak tepat waktu yang menyebabkan saya harus menggunakan gadget sehari penuh yang saya sadari telah mengganggu kesehatan saya, terutama penglihatan saya. Oke, Bapak dan sekalian, the next is the missing aspect, which virtual learning cannot provide. This is, for example, stated by MASP. One aspect I do not find in online lectures is the personal connection between the lecturers and the students. When we were still allowed to meet face-to-face for the first 3 weeks of the semester, we were able to feel a close connection with our lecturers because we could see them in person. Apart from the lectures material itself, classes were also interspersed with various advice, experiences, knowledge, and life lessons that the lecturers give to broaden our knowledge. So it is a kind of, the aspect is about the personal connection between the lecturer and the students. Another aspect is this. In my opinion, face-to-face learning is more enjoyable and would be my personal preference. The advantage of offline learning is that it is a more natural environment for learning. We can meet our fellow students and discuss everything related to the course. And then when we meet our lecturers in person, the discussion process is also much clearer and without any obstacle. It is expressed by MA. Another one is this, expressed by NSN. There are several things we have failed to gain as a result of the online lectures due to the COVID-19 pandemic. First, experience and knowledge in the real world. First, experience and knowledge in the real world. The highly limited scope of online learning has prevented us from having the opportunity to get to know the campus environment, where we would surely have gained a lot of knowledge and insight. We have also been unable to enjoy the various facilities available on campus, such as the library, to help improve our skills and potential, as well as our knowledge. There has been very little insight about social experiences with friends or with the campus environment. We have also lost the opportunity to get to know our lecturers personally, as we have only been able to meet them through online media or virtually. Okay, sekalian, these are just what you call the example of the expression, spoken by the students in terms of what they call the virtual learning. The next is discussion. The activity of teaching and learning is a system yeah, that what you call formed by a number of interrelated elements such as the curriculum, the lecturers, the student, the teaching material, the learning facilities, modes of learning, and the learning process. Yeah. These factors intersect with macro and meso factors such as government's policy, social economic condition of a community, demographic and geographic conditions of a country, physical and psychological safety and comfort, and leadership. The success or failure of a learning activity is not only determined by a single factor, but systematically by a number of factors. Systemically by a number of factors. It is necessary therefore for lecturers to view this factor holistically while identifying the factors that directly or indirectly affect the learning process so that they can take strategic steps to improve the quality of learning and overcome any problems that arise. This is the diagram showing us the micro system of ELT, which is affected by meso and macro factors like what I've just mentioned. Okay. In a situation such as this COVID-19 pandemic, in which teaching and learning activities cannot be carried out offline on campus for health reasons and to prevent the virus from spreading, okay, online learning is the best choice. Yeah, it is stated by Ahmadi, Sahbazi, and Haidari 2020. If it is well planned and properly implemented, in some cases, online learning is not significantly different from offline learning. It's expressed by Huntley and McCarthy 2018. However, it must be admitted that overall online learning is not considered to be as effective as offline learning. It's expressed by Vilita, Bruna, and Danzi Brazil 2019. Lack of competency, limited instructional design, lack of focused attention, lack of time, and limited environmental resources are common challenges to online learning. The last, Bapak Ibu sekalian, recommendation. If in the coming semesters, learning activities continues to be implemented online, and we are not certain whether next semester we have online or offline, depending on the situations of the pandemic. Yeah. So it is important to make sure that the elements that support these learning activities are present. This element includes strong and stable internet connection. It's very dominant. Yeah. Adequate hardware in the form of smartphone or laptop. And indeed, not students have this good smartphone and laptop. So sometimes there is a trouble in our communication. And then a conducive home situation, not only physically, but also socially and psychologically. And then high students' motivation and competent and passionate lecturers. We know that not all lecturers are capable in enacting the online learning, probably including me. Yeah. In addition, institutions, universities, faculties, and study programs and lecturers need to use necessary strategies that can minimize the shortcoming of online learning and maximize the existing potential in order to maintain the quality of online learning outcomes. All right, Bapak Ibu sekalian, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for joining. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Professor Djoko Nurkamto, for an insightful presentation. The responses from your students are very insightful and I think representing many of our students' feelings about doing online learning. One thing that I found really interesting in your presentation is your explanation about the interaction of the macro, meso, and micro aspects. Can you please tell us more about that, Pa? Because I think the data from your student is kind of from the micro, right? Really from the ground, you know, the person who are in front of this situation. What about the interaction between the other factors, Pa? I know you mentioned about the connection and everything. How is it that making online learning become more challenging for us? Especially when you also include the factors from the teachers or the lecturers themselves who are not really, possibly this is most of us is the first time to handle this kind of learning.
So right, Ibu Sari, as I mentioned in my presentation that teaching learning program is a systemic, it's a system, yeah, constructed from some or a number of interrelated factors, yeah, which is roughly categorized into micro, meso, and macro. In the micro level, for example, we have like curriculum, syllabus, lesson plan, teachers, students, learning facilities, assessment, and so on. Beyond this micro level, we have the meso level, including the leadership, for example, and the the situation in our society, yeah, like the committee of the school, for example, yeah, and the macro level, for example, the policy of the government, and then geographic situation like what we experience now, that we have pandemic and so on. So those factors are connected to each other to directly or indirectly affect the process of ELT. Yeah. So I think it is wise for us to view all the aspects to make the ELT successful. Okay. If we go deeper, for example, in the micro level, Pusari, we have, for example, the lecturers. Yeah. Not all lecturers are capable of, for example, managing the online learning, especially this is the first time for us, for example, to enact the ELT. Especially the old people like me, because we are digital immigrant, not native digital native, yeah. But so, for example, I myself should learn more about how to operate, how to to manage the online learning, yeah, including, for example, Zoom and then Google Meet and so on, yeah, and also the SPADA in my university, yeah, we have to use open courseware, yeah, and then also some other application, yeah, and it is not easy for old people like me, yeah, but maybe it is easy for young generation, yeah, like Pusari, for example.
But it's very challenging too, but
and then it is about the how to operate the hardware. The most serious one is how to plan the software, Ibu, yeah. For example, how to manage the lesson, how to prepare the lesson, and how to integrate the lesson into the hardware, something like that. So these factors, of course, directly and indirectly affect, yeah, the process of ELT. Yeah. And it is something a kind of making us shocked, yeah, with the phenomena. But in the second semester, yeah, the situation is much better, Sari, yeah, than the first semester. Okay.
Thank you, Pa. Continuing your explanation about preparation, there's one comment from Ibu Gilang. So do you think it is wiser for the lecturers and teachers to spend more time on planning instead of spending hours on screen having a video conference with students? I think it's kind of dilemma too, because for some other people, online learning, like in the United States, for example, online is really online. You don't have to be synchronous all the time. But for us, I think it is part of our responsibility to make sure that we have the synchronous, which will take, of course, a lot of more quota or internet for students, and then also all that fatigue and other aspect that you have mentioned. So what about this idea of spending more time on planning instead of a constant video conference with students? What do you think about this, Pak?
Well, it depends, Ibu Saria, because every lecturer has his or her own what we call capabilities. Yeah. For me, for example, I think planning is important, but spending times with video conference like this, I think also important. So I think we should have it in balance, planning, implementing, and evaluation. Okay, because for example, one of my colleagues said that she is she is happy to provide the students with a written task instead of video conference like this. Using WhatsApp or using email. Okay, but she said that when she is not ready, yeah, when she is not ready with the teaching material, for example, yeah, she like to use video conference. So once again, it depends on the situation. Yeah, it depends on the lecturer themselves. Yeah. We cannot judge that video conference like this is more effective than providing the written material, for example. Yeah, once again, it depends on the lecturers, Ibu. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Professor Joko, for the explanation. I think this is one last question from the participant. Mm-hmm. So this is about strategy and what we should do as a lecturer, that we should make some changing to balance with the condition in terms of teaching strategy and improving the skill of technology. So can you please elaborate more on this, Pak? This is from Pak Iwan Syahputra.
Okay.
So about, yeah, competent lecturer. Yeah. What is a competent lecturer in this time of pandemic, Pak? I think that's the short of that question.
Okay, Ibu. Well, I think in terms of the enactment of the teaching, I think blended learning is more effective than only online learning. Yeah. What I mean by blended learning here is the combinations of conventional learning and online learning. By conventional learning, I mean that, for example, the teachers provide the students with some task. For example, reading some articles and then making a summary, something like that. And then after that, they have to present the result of their task by having synchronous strategy by having Zoom like this, for example. Yeah. So I think the best strategy is to combine between online learning and other learning, like giving tasks, something like that. But once again, it also depends on the situation, yeah, because I think the situation of one university is quite different from other universities. Even in one universities, the situation in one class is different from other classes. Usually what I do is to make negotiation, with my students, including the time allotment, Busari. How long we will have a lecture. In undergraduate level, for example, yeah, they said that we have 60 minutes, yeah. But in master program or even in doctoral program, yeah, they are happy to have even 2 hours per study. Yeah. So once again, so the condition is different between undergraduate and then master what you call program, and even doctorate programs. I also teach in some doctorate programs. For example, even they are happy to have 2.5 hours in online learning, using discussion, using like this. But it is not, it doesn't happen in undergraduate because of some factors like quota tadi. Because for undergraduate students, quota market is a problem, but not with the students of doctoral programs. Itu Bu Sari.
So our context also play out in how the learning process happened. Yeah, exactly. So it's a very complex situation right now for lecturers because there are so many aspects that we need to navigate: administration, students, and the level of classes that we teach. Yes. Thank you very much, Professor Joko, for the insightful presentation and discussion with us today. We really appreciate your contribution in this webinar. Thank you so much, and thank you for—
You're welcome, Bu Sari. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for the questions from the participant. Now I would like to—
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Pa. It's an honor for us to have you in our session. Thank you so much. Now I would like to continue to our second presentation in our agenda today. I would like to welcome Dr. Aslam Khan. It's really nice to see you again, Pa Aslam. It's been a year since we last met in Palembang. So I'm really delighted to have you, even virtually, today.
Yeah. Thank you, Bu Sari.
Thank you. I would like to introduce Dr. Aslam Khan before he presents his topic today. So Dr. Aslam Khan is a familiar figure in Indonesia as well as in Malaysia. He is a senior lecturer and executive vice chairman of American Education Group, a council member of the National Association of Private Education Institutions in Malaysia, and also the vice president of Malaysian Association of Education. In addition to these positions, Dr. Khan has served as an executive committee and vice president of Malaysian English Language Teaching Association, or MELTA, for over 23 years. So a very long tenure in education, in the school system as well as the university level. We are very happy to have you here, Dr. Aslam. And today, Dr. Aslam Khan will present the topic on the new normal in education, seeking contextualized pedagogical solutions in challenging times. Dr. Aslam Khan, the Zoom floor is yours.
First of all, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Waalaikumsalam.
To everyone in Indonesia. And once again, thank you very much to SRS-TEFLIN for the invitation. Yes, last year I was there in person. Today I'm on a virtual platform. Special mention to Professor Dr. Joko, the president of TEFLIN, who is a great friend, Professor Juzaima, also a great friend, and also Bu Sari, whom we met. Thank you to the organizing committee, and thank you to all the speakers who are present here today, and of course to all the presenters, and also the participants from all over the world. I'm really grateful to be on this platform. Though it is virtual, this is an example of already the new normal. Yeah. So today I'm going to share. All right. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. I think can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We need to internalize theories and concepts, and then we need to come up with contextualized solutions in this new normal. Yeah. So let me take you to what we have in store today. I'll be sharing some underlying theories and concepts, the new normal, the challenges, the shift in the education landscape, and suggested practical and contextualized solutions. Now, we have to understand this aspect of education doesn't change, whether in the new normal or in the conventional platform. We always ask ourselves, do we teach or do we educate? If we teach, we see on the left there. If we educate, we see on the right there. All right, to teach is basically to show, explain, to encourage someone to accept a fact or principle, to give information about or instruction in, to cause someone to learn or understand something, to induce by example or punishment to do or not to do something. But to educate means to inspire, to guide, to exemplify, to cause someone to apply and express, to empower, to enlighten, to illuminate. And as an educator, all right, an educator gives intellectual, moral, and social instruction. An educator is an experienced and trusted advisor. An educator advises and shows the way. Now we have to internalize this fact. Are we teaching or are we educating? And we need to understand the education needs to shift from teaching us facts to teaching us how to live extraordinary lives. Now, if we can understand these lines, and then from the conventional setting to the new normal setting, I think we would be able to make practical and effective progressions. And we were talking about IR 4.0 before the new normal. So therefore, before the new normal, we are already in the fourth industrial revolution. And it is based on the use of cyber physical systems. All right? That is Industrial Revolution 4.0. So we have been exposed to Industrial Revolution 4.0. And then we were also exposed to Education 4.0. Now then again, this is before the new normal. But let me just focus on the four trends, the four elements which are very relevant now in the new normal. Diverse time and place, personalized learning, exams will change completely, mentoring will become more important. Now look at these four trends. If we can internalize these four trends, then we would be able to come up with some practical solutions. And then we were exposed to 21st century education. Now we look at the 6 C's. However, I have personally contributed one more C, which is contextualization. Now, why contextualization should be one of the C's in the 6 C's? All right? Well, I will elaborate more on this as we move on. And we know that the conventions are these, right? This is the convention before the new normal. All right, look at this. Look at these images. Very familiar, right? And now the conventions have been replaced. The images of the convention mentioned earlier, or you have seen earlier, has been replaced with a new normal. Now, in the new normal, there are challenges, and there are lots of queries regarding realism versus idealism. And lots of practitioners are in this situation, realism versus idealism. And then we as practitioners, whether we are in tertiary education, whether we are in schools, or whether we are in preschools, we always have to make our reflection. What about our stance? What about our perspective in ensuring that we are giving the best education to the learners? And what actually is the new normal? It is unfamiliar and atypical situation. Now it has become a standard, usual, or expected. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we embark on the shift. I'm using the word shift, whether we need to shift our mindset, whether we have to shift our education landscape, whether we have to shift our pedagogical approaches, we need to have the shift all internalized. This is the shift. This is opposite of what we saw just now in the images about the conventions. Now it is very individualistic. Learners are sitting in front of the laptop, and learning and teaching will be taking place. So, moving from the conventions to the new normal, definitely there'll be challenges. Now, what are the challenges? Now, this is a very interesting image, right? Online classes behind the camera. I think this is something that experienced by lots of families. Now, the key challenges in online learning or teaching. Adaptability struggle. Compatibility, encouraging collaboration, and loneliness. Now, this is a key challenge because everyone, whether the teacher or academics, the learners or the students, they have to adapt to the current situation. And adapting to the current situation is quite a struggle. Secondly, we have technical issues, connectivity and availability. This is a major issue. Sometimes we need to understand that not all our learners are in the urban setting. Some are in the rural setting, and some are even in a very rural setting where connectivity is a major issue. 3, time management and staying connected. Face-to-face learning and teaching is rather very different from online learning. And then what about the socio-economic factor and affordability? Now, if there are 3 students or children in a family and they are studying at the same time, I think the family will face problems, especially from the affordability perspective, because you can't, having 3 laptops or computers at the same time is quite a burden for lots of families, if their socio-economic status is not very encouraging or favorable. Number 5, what about computer literacy, digital competence, and lacking of technical skills? Now, not everyone is technologically savvy with the new platforms that we have. Not everyone. So some training needs to be done in a short time. What about motivation? What about, it is not face-to-face. The teacher is very far away. How do we ensure that students who are passive are actively involved in the lesson? What about assessment? Examinations online. And it's never easy. Based on some researches done among teachers in Malaysia and Indonesia, online learning and teaching is quite a challenge. And of course, confidence. Now we have to ensure that every child or every learner or every student or every undergraduate needs to have equal input. But how do we ensure this? With all the barriers that we have, sometimes confidence will be lost very easily. And the last thing we all want in a student's life is they drop out. So these are the key challenges. However, ladies and gentlemen, as educationists, as practitioners, or as teachers, or as academics, whoever we are, there's always solutions. Let's look at some of the solutions. So we need to create a shift in the education landscape. Whether we like or not, we are in the new normal. We have to create that shift because the education landscape has changed. And yes, we always talk about technology, but we have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that technology must never be our master. I repeat, technology must never be our master, but instead, technology should be our servant. Technology is a tool. It is a means to an end. It's not the end, It's a means to the end. So what technology as a tool should do? Provoke to try and master skills, encourage to co-create, inspire to explore beyond the tangible, raise interest in topics, themes, contexts, motivate to engage in the real world. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, technology to be seen as a tool, and technology should be doing all these. And some of the short-term measures in managing these challenges. Now we have teacher training, empowering teachers. We empower teachers to manage online teaching and learning, hand-holding, if possible, and guidance from e-moderators. So we need to come up with teacher training packages, teacher training strategies, teacher training plans. And then secondly, we have to build support mechanisms, support from e-moderators via collaboration with district and state education departments. Now we have to remember, in the new normal, when we are put in this setting, lots of practitioners, they need assistance, they need support. This is where, whether we are in the governmental bodies or organizations, whether we are in the state, whether we are in the district, whether we are in the community, whether we are in the university, or whether we are in the school, we need this support mechanism. And of course, we need to leverage on user-friendly teaching and learning platforms. I think this is something that familiar. It is something that, I mean, most of these platforms are quite being used at the moment. And the shift in learning, the 7 most powerful idea shifts in learning today. Look at the 7th, from physical to digital, from standards to habits, from compliance to play, from schools to communities. Now, communities currently in this new normal play a very crucial role and a very strategic role to ensure that both the institutions and the learners get the best piece of education or knowledge with this collaboration. From reaction to interaction, from isolation to connectivism, from privacy to transparency. So we need to understand this shift. So we need to internalize this shift. And what about testing, assessment, and evaluation? Now, we have to go beyond these frontiers now. It's no more this. All right, in the new normal, assessment and evaluation goes digital. All right, everything is digitalized. And then we reduce fraud during examination or testing. We have AI-driven fraud prevention. And then in standardized assessments using technology, learners take a writing or speaking test on their computer or mobile device. Automatic distribution to one of the 1,000 plus certified professors from all over the world through a dedicated evaluator for platform. And learners and administrators receive their detailed reports, all the detailed reports within 24 hours after taking the test. And we need to understand the solutions which the shift provided. Shift of learning place is from public space to personal space now. Shift of delivery methods from one size fits all to individualized and differentiated learning. Now you see the keyword here, all right? It's no more one size fits all. Shift in learning evaluations from final exams to formative assessment. Shift of responsibility in the teaching and learning process. Active participation of household members. We are looking at the families or the communities being part of the learning teaching process. And if we are looking at it from the pedagogical perspective, the shifts. Now the key words here, again, contextualize and personalize your pedagogical shift. Now sometimes we need to understand all learners are different. And that's why the phrase one hat doesn't fit all is very appropriate. If we are teaching in a school or in a tertiary institution, let's say in Sulawesi or in Malang or Surabaya or Solo, they are all different. And Palembang, they are all different. So therefore, we cannot have one strategy, one methodology, one way of using resources to teach the whole 5 or 6 different districts. We need to contextualize and personalize our pedagogical approaches according to the needs of our learners and based on what resources we have and also where we are. We can use the 5E instructional model. Engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate, maximize this model. And you can personalize your own models. I mean, there is no reason why we as practitioners cannot come up with our own instructional model, which are more suitable for our learners and based on the resources we have and based on the place we are teaching. This is the explanation of the 5E instructional model. And personally, I've suggested an online teaching methodology. It is based on my name. The acronym or mnemonic, some of you will say, is ASLAM. Activate, share, learn, apply, and move. This is a suggested online teaching methodology. So if you think that this is practical in your personal context, please use it. No worries. Okay, always think that it is ASLAM, and then it makes it easier. All right. Now let's look at the detailed explanation. Now, when we are doing face-to-face, we have set induction. Now we use activate, warm up, revision practice, and activation of prior knowledge for a more personalized or individualized learning. Students' involvement activated from the very beginning. So we activate, all right? Face-to-face, it is known as set induction. And then we share. So in the face-to-face, we term it as presentation and practice. So introduction of new language and students to undergo controlled practice sessions. Teacher uses the necessary tools to interact with students and allow students practice time. Direct feedback and responses provided. And then they learn. This is the stage where we call development and production in the face-to-face. Teacher sets the focus skills, tasks, and students are directly involved in pair or group work using available technical tools. Feedback and responses can be verbal or in the written form. And then apply. This is homework practice, but it's no more homework practice. Now it is online practice. Teacher provides focus exercises, students answer online. Students too provides instant feedback. So not only teachers are providing, but students too can provide, instant feedback. Teacher is able to gauge students' performance. And lastly, the conclusion and what's next in face-to-face, teacher summarizes teaching learning points to conclude. So we have synchronous learning there. And then teacher sets enrichment tasks and also sets meaningful research work for the next lessons prior knowledge, that is asynchronous. Now remember that teachers' talking time is to be reduced and students' talking time is prioritized. Sorry, the pronunciation there. Maximum learning to take place, yeah? So as a conclusion, now the new normal is not just about online learning. It's not just about online learning. It's more than that. Now, I have highlighted the first point here. Maslow before Bloom should be the new battle cry in education. I'll explain a bit more later on. Now, look at the points here. The second point, equitable access matters more than ever. Look at these points here, all right? The third point, multiple pathways of learning delivery should be considered in an emergency learning continuity program. Better funding, stronger support, and more relevant professional development for teachers need to be prioritized. Sound pedagogy drives the use of online tools and resources. Review purpose of assessments and grades in times of emergencies. Forge stronger school community and external partnerships. Privacy, safety, security, and digital well-being are top priorities. Flexibility, adaptability, and empathy are essential skills in navigating uncertain times. So you see, and the last point, something for us to reflect. Now, we are all reflective practitioners. How about us? What's our reimagination of the new normal in education? So these are some of the things that we need to internalize, reflect, and come up with our contextualized solutions. All right, this is what I mentioned earlier. Maslow before Bloom should be the new battle cry in education. We need to understand that we just don't focus on Bloom's taxonomy. Maslow's hierarchy of needs is as crucial in the new normal, because the basic needs, psychological needs, and self-fulfillment needs of our learners need to be looked into apart from looking at Bloom's taxonomy of learning, yeah? So, food for thought. Are there opportunities granted to us in this new normal? And the answer is a big yes. This new normal has provided us with new platforms, new opportunities. These three are some of the major ones: research innovations, technological innovations, and thirdly, socio-economic interventions. We need to understand the well-being of our teachers, our academics, and of course our learners. Because the well-being of the teachers or academics and the learners need to be looked into, and if there are interventions, we need to embark on it very promptly and very seriously. So solutions are basically new kinds of problems require new methods of solutions, which require new ways of thinking for quality and effective learning and teaching. And the key word, again, I like to emphasize contextualization. Just contextualize your learning and teaching according to the needs of your learners based on the resources available. And one hat doesn't fit all. So, we've gone through this journey, the theories, the concepts, the challenges, the new normal, the solutions, including some of the pedagogical implications. These are the 10 questions, very pertinent questions for all of us to reflect. Being reflective practitioners, we need to reflect on these 10 pertinent questions and come up with our personal contextualized solutions. Well, my hope is that our new normal today exposes what was wrong with our old normal yesterday and sets us up for a better normal tomorrow. So with that, I'd like to thank you, and thank you everyone for your attention to my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aslam Khan, for a very interesting presentation. So many key insights that we gained from your presentation. I believe a lot of notes that we got from you today. And I know many of the participants are wondering if they can get the PowerPoint, and the answer is yes, we're going to provide it to you so you can get all of the materials that we have today. And it's just very appropriate that this presentation ends with some reflection questions that I hope that every one of us can take the time to look at it, maybe after this webinar, to really be reflective on what we are doing in this new normal. And I really like the point about the hierarchy. Yeah, we keep thinking about cognitive aspect of learning from the Bloom taxonomy. And sometimes we forget that we also have this Maslow taxonomy where we have to pay attention to other aspects, yeah, psychological aspect, esteem needs, safety needs, and everything else, which is really, really important in this time. So Dr. Aslam Khan, we already have so many questions from our participant today. Some are about strategy, some's about how to deal with online learning. So let me see. So how to make students actively involved in online learning, as online learning mostly not able to cater all students to participate. I know you're really big on strategies and some practical ideas. So if you can elaborate more on this. So how do we make them active online? That's the big question from all teachers here.
Okay. Now, there are many strategies. If you look at Aslam,
Now, a very nice one.
Yeah, it's basically telling teachers that, everything lies in your own hands. Now, you have to create situation. You have to plan before your lesson. And you need to understand, if you have 20 students or 25 students or 30 students, you have to strategize. Now, if I want these 30 students to react, to provide responses, I have to create meaningful tasks. Create a meaningful task where you can involve the students. Now, you know your students well. That's why I say that, it's contextualized. I don't know your students if you're in Tangerang, or if you're in Palembang, or you are in Padang. You know your students well. You are the teacher. They idolize you. You are the best to them. So you know them well. Now you create a situation where you can come up with a meaningful task where you involve your learners. Who do you want to involve? Because you know your students, those active ones and those passive ones. So you create a meaningful task. And then remember, teacher is remember I said we are educators, yeah? We are not there to teach, we educate. So when you educate, you are a mentor. That's why I look at Education 4.0. We are mentors. We don't monopolize the whole lesson. We have to tell our students, they are the learners and teachers. We are the mentors. Peer learning. All right? So you guide them and you prompt them. And then you ensure that the students are asking and the students are learning, and we just monitor. But sometimes we have teachers who talk 95% of the time. Students talk 5%. No. So in Aslam, you can see it. Students' talking time need to be prioritized at all time. So teachers, it is in your hands. You know your learners. Yeah. So you prioritize your students' learning time. How you do it, you know your students well. But I suggest meaningful tasks. That's why Aslam number 5 there, move. Can you see the word move there? What do you have to do in the move? It's not to say, okay, terima kasih, kita jumpa esok ya, bye. No, you create a situation where they take home something to do. They are always engaged. So remember the word engage also. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you. One more question regarding internet safety. Yeah. There's one question about how to ensure students abide to internet safety, plagiarism, avoiding plagiarism, and being decent in making comment during the online class.
Okay. Now, I don't know what are the rules in your country and the place you come from, because we have a lot of rules and regulations about internet. Sometimes it is blocked. Certain websites are blocked. So I'm not sure about that. I think it is very contextualized again based on where you are from, because you have your own governmental rules and regulations and restrictions. But as a teacher, I think we are the teachers, okay? I always say we are teachers. Whether you are in a university or you are in a preschool, whether you are in a school or whatever, we are teachers and we are educators. So remember that you have a social obligation to your learners to ensure that internet rules and regulations are adhered to at all times. It's based on where you are from, and it's based on the regulations you have in your own area, yeah? And one more thing, Busari, just to tell about, remember I stressed on the point of community. Now I know maybe in certain places, even maybe in Sumatra, a family may not have all the resources. Why not start thinking? Where our thinking cap? Okay, let's do a community service. Get all the students from most of the families there, maybe 20 families who are, economically challenged. They cannot have all these resources. 20 students put in a center, a community center with one laptop or LCD and one big screen. You see, 20 people can use one. You don't need one child, one LCD or one laptop or one screen or whatever. Do community service. That's why I say that in the new normal, one of the best solutions is community. Involve the community. Get the head of the village, put them together, go and see the bapa-bapa and the ibu-ibu. Ini untuk anak-anak kita, untuk bangsa Indonesia, untuk anak-anak Indonesia, supaya mereka akan berjaya di platform bukan Indonesia saja, di platform antara bangsa. Mari kita bergabung, mari kita dukung sama-sama. I mean, it's crucial there.
Thank you so much. That's a very important point to consider. Community participation to support the online learning. Yeah, because teachers, they can do so much to do all of this change to adapt with the changes and provide the best education for students, but they can only do so much, and we need to also have community to support the learning. Thank you very much, Dr. Aslam Khan, for your presentation today. And thank you for all the questions. Please, we still have 2 more presentations, and we will go back to the questions that we have not addressed, as well as new questions for 2 more presentations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Busari. Thank you. It's a great pleasure. Now they can see my email there if they want to drop a line or a message or other queries. Please do anytime. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being available for our teachers to ask you questions directly. So if you still have questions, again, Dr. Aslam Khan is very generous in providing his contact information. So you can contact him. And if you didn't get a chance to take notes on his info, the committee will provide you with the presentation slides that contains his contact together with your certificate later on. Okay, now we will move on to the 3rd presentation. I would like to welcome Dr. Henny Herawati for the next presentation. Before that, please allow me to read her bio. Henny Herawati, PhD, is a lecturer at the English Language Education Study Program, Sanata Dharma University, Yogyakarta. She has been teaching for 20 years and mainly teaches literature courses. For example, the Introduction to Literature, Prose, Drama, and Poetry, and also creative writing. She graduated from Satya Wacana Christian University for her bachelor degree, and then she got her master's degree from Gajah Mada University. Last year, she earned her PhD from Monash University, Australia, with her doctoral thesis, Learners as Writers, a case study of EFL creative writing resources and practices in Indonesia. She has particular research interest in literature, in language learning, and L2 creative writing. She also enjoys doodling and writing poems. That really fits with her presentation today, with the title Creative Writing, yeah, Ibu Henny.
Yes.
So
thank you.
Bu Henny, the Zoom floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Sari, for the nice introduction. Now, please allow me to share my screen. Yes, thank you again for the kind introduction, Ibu Sari. Good morning, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's really a great honor to be invited here to this webinar. And thank you, SRS-TEFLIN team. Thank you, Professor Joko Nurkamto and Dr. Aslam for sharing such interesting and mind-opening presentations. I can actually relate that with the context of my presentation. In this webinar, I would like to share my thoughts and practices, which is probably looking into a tiny piece of puzzle in the big pictures that have been presented by previous speakers. So I'm going to kind of zooming in into practices. The title of my presentation is Navigating Learning in the New Normal, Creative Writing for Students' Self-Expression and Well-Being. I will first briefly talk about the shift in learning mode during the pandemic, then the concern on students' well-being, followed with the creative writing practices I did with my students, and then I'll conclude with a few key points of my presentations. So as have been described very clearly by our previous speakers, Professor Joko and Dr. Aslam, our life has changed drastically since the beginning of this year due to the coronavirus outbreak. And there have been major changes and shifts in education at every level, from early years to adult learning, and there has been a sudden shift from physical classroom to virtual or online space. And looks like this COVID-19 pandemic actually has accelerated the uptake of digital learning as well. Now, to cope with the school closings, teachers and schools are using educational technology to support remote learning. And teachers need to become more versatile in their pedagogy, as also mentioned by Dr. Aslam, with this online mode of teaching. And they make every effort to provide the best facilities to the best here, the best from teachers' perspective sometimes, to facilitate and enhance students' learning. Many teachers who are not so tech savvy, like me, have to learn using digital tools to be able to facilitate our students well. Yet another important thing, so I'm not going to talk about the how teachers have struggled for some teachers, and also have used the digital tools very well, because there is no doubt about that. But I'd like to pose a question here, another important thing, another side of the coin. Have we considered our students' well-being? This aspect is often overlooked, as we teachers, including me also, are busy navigating our teaching in this new normal. For me, including like learning how to use the digital tools appropriate for my students. But what is meant by well-being? Well-being is actually a multidimensional concept, but I'd like to draw your attention to these keywords: state of being comfortable, healthy, happy, and that it may refer to one's emotional, physical, or psychological state of health and happiness. So Dan Brown wrote, "Even the technology that promises to unite us divides us. Each of us is now electronically connected to the globe, and yet we feel utterly alone." I'm not against technology, of course, and because we have to embrace this new normal. But I'd like to share this quotation because it may actually reflect the feeling of many students, at least a number of students I talked to. So educators have identified some drawbacks on online learning, one of which is student stress. The findings of some studies indicate student stress due to the remote learning during the pandemic. And from these studies that were conducted in different parts of the world, actually, 4 major causes of student stress can be concluded, but this may not represent the whole context, the whole situations in different parts of the world. The 4 causes here are first, the piles of tasks or excessive assignments. I think this one was also mentioned by Professor Joko. Second, fear of failing the exams, including the uncertainty about the assessment. The third one is boredom due to lockdown and uni closings. And the fourth one is the feeling of detachment or isolation. In this presentation, I would like to draw your attention to the third and fourth, as these two are mentioned by my students in a simple survey I did. And the two themes here emerge in the students' poems in my creative writing class. So again, I would like to highlight these two courses. So what can we do actually to assist students through this adversity? In this presentation, I would like to share my experience of exploring creative writing practices and its potential to serve as a space for students' expressions in responding to the current COVID-19 pandemic. So, but due to the limitation of time, I would like to focus on poetry writing. Now, what is meant by creative writing? There are different views on what creative writing is, yet I'd like to highlight 3 most important and most relevant ones in the context of my study. So creative writing refers to writing which aims at expressing feelings, emotions, thoughts, imaginations, and aesthetic aspect as opposed to merely conveying information. And instead of emphasizing formal language and grammar accuracy, creative writing encourages freedom in the forms of writing and in playing with the language. So freedom in the forms and freedom in playing with the words, with the language. Creative writing also draws more heavily on intuition, close observation, imagination, and personal memories. So how can creative writing help students? Based on my observation and experience, there are 4 aspects, 4 reasons. First is because it provides a space to express emotions or feelings. Second, it involves a reflective process in the process of writing. And the third one encourages interactions among students and engages students with creative projects. I think these 4 things can address the problems faced by the students related to their boredom and a feeling of isolation or detachment. Now, for your information, the creative writing that I'm going to share, the creative writing class that I'm going to talk about here is an elective course offered to students of semester 3 and 4 at the English Language Education Study Program, and it was 2 credits. So it's an EFL context, so EFL creative writing, you can say that. This is an example of a writing task we have in creative writing class. Okay, so let me read out. The project here is poetry in the COVID-19 pandemic. So write a poem inspired by your own experience of the pandemic. Students are to show how the pandemic has affected their life, and ask them also to share their feelings and thoughts and observe life around them under lockdown. This task, I think, encourage students to reflect on their feelings, memories, experiences, and observations. Now, let me show you some of the students' writings. Maybe it's too small. I'm going to highlight later some lines. So creative writing provides a space for expressions of emotions and feelings. So let me read the poem because it's quite short. I remember when I was in the crowd of pixel, so exhausted. I remember the smell in the middle of the crowded bus, so nasty. I remember when me and my family went to the church, so hectic. I remember when the wind blew my hair and ocean kissed my feet, so sweet. I remember those moments, but I don't know if I can go back again safely one day. So in this poem, she drew from memories of what she did in the past and how she missed doing all those things. The students also expressed her worry that she would not be able to have those moments again and whether she could go there again safely. Let's look at the second one. Now, reflecting on what happened when the online learning began and how the online learning has taken up all her life, she wrote, let me read the first few lines, okay? This year, I only felt 2 months and 13 days. The rest I forgot. All I remember is the cell phone screen. Okay, so this reflected on what happened when the online learning began. She also expressed the feeling of isolation, like a bird in the cage, third line from the bottom. So, and interestingly, the next student actually used the same metaphor in her poem, comparing herself with the cage bird to express the isolated feeling, having to always stay at home and cannot go to the uni and meet their friends and having discussions face to face. Here, she mentioned, or she wrote here, I'm no different from a bird, afraid to get out from a cage, fear of something I can't even see. So reflecting on how and reflecting on how beautiful the world outside is, she pointed out the irony of being unable to enjoy its beauty. She also expressed her restlessness, anxiety, and emptiness, having to be at home all the time and losing her freedom to go wherever she wants. And she wants to be free again, like a butterfly. The third poem here is entitled Weariness. In this poem, the student expressed her weariness of having to stare at the squares on the screen. Okay, staring at those squares on the screen. That's the very first line. Okay, I believe this refers to the boxes or the squares on the screen when having online classes with Zoom. She felt that she was forced to be introverted, okay, and missed her outgoing activities. She also personified coronavirus as an unwanted guest, asking how long more he or she would stay. I think this one is an interesting piece, but not only expressions of emotions, creative writing also helps students reflect and assert their self-positioning. Okay, self-positioning. What I mean by self-positioning here is the decision on how to respond to this adversity. Like in this poem, the student poet shows her ability to understand the current situation, or at least trying to understand the current situation. 2020 is almost over, but the pandemic doesn't seem to end. It imprisoned us as we're in the jail forced us to stay at home, deprived us of our freedom. There are only 2 months left, but it seemed no chance left to gather with friends and family, to go outside to play and to go to school for study. In this uncertainty of life, there's nothing we can do except praying for the best, wishing for victory, and dreaming of the days of freedom. So here in the first 2 stanzas, she was trying to understand the situations. And then in the last stanza, we can see that she asserts her self-positioning, the decision on how to respond to this adversity. And the lines that indicates self-positioning is praying and always be hopeful for victory and freedom. So this student poet also wrote a similar reflection. She wrote an acrostic poem with the first letter of each line forming the words coronavirus. And in this poem, she observed people behavior around her, how some people were so strong-headed and not care for others, showing her concerns based on her observations. So there's hope for vaccine discovery. There is religious stance and belief that things will get better under the shelter of the Almighty One. So another poem here. In this poem, the student first expressed his feeling of sadness and missing his family. He also noted that how different and quieter the surroundings now based on his observation. However, he also expressed his positive stand that the earth is healing. So there is a hope that things will be better in the future. So not only that he expressed emotions, feeling of missing family and observation of surroundings, he also assert a decision on how he will respond to the current situation. Melissa Sickness, I hope I pronounced it correctly. She's a writer. She says, I believe that, she says, your well-being affects and is affected by those waves through small ripples of self-care and the decisions you make. I believe that students' process of poetry writing is a form of self-care and helping them to make sense of the situation and make decision on their response to it. So to sum up, students use poetry writing first to reflect, to express, and to assert or articulate self-positioning. They reflect on their memories and observation of surroundings. They express feelings, their fear, worry, anxiety, boredom, weariness, but also hope and optimism. And they also assert a positive outlook on optimistic viewpoint to make sense of the current situation. So creative writing can be explored for students' well-being as it involves a literary and self-reflective process. It reflects the poet's personal emotional experiences, exploring memories, feelings, thoughts, thus helping them to cope with the negative effects of the pandemic. The reflection in the writing process enables students to articulate their self-positioning and presenting their perspective and understanding of the pandemic situation, kind of discernment on decision on whether I want to keep complaining all the time or I prefer to see an opportunity in doing something during this pandemic situation. So this is a discernment on action, on on responding to this COVID-19 pandemic. So I believe that language learning in this new normal should consider students' psychological well-being as it is of utmost importance. And poetry writing may become an alternative to provide a space not only to release and express emotions, but also to make decisions on how to make sense of this adversity and what position they want to stand to respond to it. Now, if I still have time, I'd like to share a bit of this. If you are interested in reading more of my students' poems, please visit our class IG at creativewriting_PBE. And this is an example of a creative writing project that encourages interactions among students. So if you remember the third and fourth points that I mentioned previously, creative writing can encourage interactions and that it engages students with creative projects. So this is one of the projects that students did, and I think it encourages interactions among students, though still virtually, in which students work in a team to do peer reviewing, peer editing their classmates' work, and also like sharing ideas at the initial stage of writing. And this project also engaged students with to collaboratively develop the Instagram account. Actually, I have 2 students helping me in uploading and designing the look. So it looks really nice. It looks beautiful because of that, because of my students, not me. And also, this is an example of a digital book project. So at the end of the semester, they collaboratively use, this one used Google Doc to develop the draft of the digital book project in the group. Then they use Canva to finalize and present it nicely like that. Okay, so I think engaging students with some creative projects like this will make them interested, and what I mean is it probably helps reducing the boredom of having to stay at home all the time. And but I also have to highlight that this course is an elective course. So students taking this course are really passionate about writing and really interested in writing stories or poems. But to add just a little bit, creative writing can actually be done not only in a creative writing course, but it can be embedded as activities in other courses. I think that's all what I'd like to share with you today. Thank you so much. Back to Bu Sari.
Thank you very much, Bu Heni, for a very interesting take on what we can do to really navigate this pandemic with the activities that really, I think this is therapeutic. It's a kind of process where we have the space to really express our feeling. And it's very lucky for the students to be in your class, Ibu. I think that's it's different from other classes, and it provides them with the space to express feelings and emotion related to what they have experienced during this pandemic. And I think this is an implementation of really how to deal with emotional aspect, as Pak Joko has presented earlier, the emotional geography of students doing learning in this pandemic. And one thing that I'd like you to give us more explanation is how do you think teacher can apply this in their classroom? I know this is at the university level, and because I think based on what you have presented, it shows that this is a nice way of making the space for students to express feeling. How do you think we can apply this in the classroom so teachers can introduce this process and provide also students at the middle school, high school, or even elementary school to take advantage of writing as a therapeutic process?
Yes, thank you, Bu Sari. Very interesting questions. And not only in the university level that we can embed or we can use this creative writing exercise, okay, to students. Let me start with an example in the university level. It can be like in reading classes, and then it's creative writing will be in or will be as a post-reading activity, and like, and in it can also be used in like I like to call it creative reflection. Okay, so it's a kind of reflecting on the readings that they have read, but in a form of creative way, like the students read a novel or even an article, and then they wrote a poem reflecting on that, on what they learned from the book. We also have what we call found poem. Found poem is a poem writing based on or and the words are taken from the non-literary text. Okay, so any text. Usually I ask students to, okay, get any text from your bag, okay, grammar book or, you know, linguistics books or anything. And then they can actually look at one page, and if they don't want to erase or, you know, black out the, you know, the words that they don't want to use, they can rewrite that. Okay, so basically finding poems in a non-literary text or in a non-poetic text, and it can be any text, and it turns out to be very interesting and completely different from the the message is completely different from the original text. It's like, for example, a research method text, but it becomes a poem about love or about, you know, like other things that are not related to research. And that's actually the real use of language, because then they can use the words from the text meaningfully to convey what they want to convey. Okay, the ideas, the feelings, the emotions that they want to convey. Now, on a level like high school or lower, it is also possible, Ibu. There are some types of short poems like acrostic, in which you use the first letter to form like Aslam, Dr. Aslam. You can make actually then not just one word, but kind of an acrostic poem to describe the stages, okay, or the methodology of using the online learning. But for lower level students, they can start from the names, their own names, and then describe what kind of person they are, or probably their friend's name, and then just maybe one word, adjectives. So if the focus of the learning, language learning, is adjectives, they have to think about the adjectives that can describe that person or the writer, him or herself. Okay, and just put that nicely to describe the person. There's an kind of application on the web, like Poetry Maker, but we have to, like what Joko also mentioned, that we have to use the digital tools wisely, depending on the purpose. So I will not ask I will not ask students in my class, creative writing class, to use that Poetry Maker, because it's like artificial intelligence. You just put in some words and then they will create a poem for you. Okay, but that eliminate the expressions, the real feeling that they want to say. Because often I have tried actually once and they say, oh no, that's not, even though it uses words that I key in, but the sense, the meaning conveyed are different. Okay, but for lower level students, it's very interesting because students can key in words that they learn. Okay, so if the focus is verbs, you can key in like verbs, 2 verbs or 3 adjectives, and then 2 nouns, for instance, and then it will make a poem for you. Okay, it's interesting for lower level students in which creativity in really writing the poem is not the main focus. The main focus is learning the language, but poem is a fun way of presenting it. I hope that helps a bit, that answers a bit your question, Ibu Sari.
Yeah, yeah, I think after your session, maybe you can type in the resource for the apps, and I believe our teachers here might get some inspiration from that they can consider to apply in their classroom, possibly.
Yes, of course.
Later
yes,
on,
course.
You don't have to do it right now.
Pleasure.
I think
yes.
I think they will get benefit from that, because we have so many questions about how do I make my learning interesting, how do I engage students, and after listening to your presentation, I think this is one of the way that we can apply to engage our students creatively. So just remember, one of the C that we need, in addition to critical thinking, we also need this creativity and writing. I think one of the neglected area in our learning, especially in secondary school level, because of the challenges it posed to our students to do writing. And by doing this creatively, hopefully that will be inspiring. Thank you very much, Dr. Heni Herawati, for the presentation. If we have more questions later on, we can have it at the end of the session. But now I will move on to our last presentation for today. I would like to welcome, thank you, Bu Heni. I would like to welcome Bu Gilang Asri Devianti, MPDMA, our last but not least presenters today. I would like to read her bio before she presents her topic. So Ms. Gilang Asri Devianti, MPDMA, is a teacher at SMP N2 Cileunyi, Kabupaten Bandung in West Java. So she has a long experience of teaching, as well as becoming an instructor and trainers for teachers. She is a member of curriculum development team in West Java province and served as the chairperson of MGMP National Virtual Bahasa Inggris Virtual. And today, Ms. Gilang Devianti will present her topic on new pandemics education readiness assessment. Ms. Gilang, the Zoom floor is yours.
Thank you, Ibu Sari. Let me prepare first.
Okay.
Okay, can you see my PowerPoint?
Very well.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, first of all, I really would like to greet everybody. It is a nice time to be here. It is an honor also for, as I can share the best practice that we have already had in Kabupaten Bandung, but at the same time, I can share the reflections on the applications. Ibu Huzaimah and all the team, thank you very much for the chance. Let's go directly to the presentations. As this presentation actually is connected to Pak Joko, Pak Aslam, and Ibu Heni's presentations. So it is a very nice and also very informing for me that the one that we have already had here has been actually researched also by the other parties that can give some more insights. That's why when I put this slide, I have already written the principles of this best practice and the result of the reflections as contextualization and adaptation, meaning this is one of the best practice, but of course there will be some other best practices and some point can be learned, some point can be changed. I think that's the one. The one that I present here actually is a local and practical response from my area to the policy applied in Indonesia. As in Indonesia, the policy about reopening the school is given to the local one. Based on the UNESCO side, there are 6 points that we have to discuss, and actually they are related. So the first one is about the policy. As I mentioned before, the policy about opening or reopening the schools for the offline learning will be based on 4 levels: the national level, provincial level, the city level, and the school levels. The one that I'm going to talk about here will be addressed to the city and the school levels. From the regulation and the policies applied, Kabupaten Bandung has set the parameters. The parameters concerning with the aspect to consider, the classification, and the phases. Kabupaten Bandung and all the schools in Kabupaten Bandung think that when we are talking about the learning systems, whether it should be offline or online, we have to think about these 4 aspects: the areas of the school, the students' condition, the school conditions, and the teacher and staff condition. In Kabupaten Bandung, we have the term of black, red, orange, yellow, and green areas, showing how dangerous the area in the school is or the area where the students live. So black is, of course, the most dangerous one, and green is the lightest one. When we are talking about the schools, the focus will be on the facilities, the staffs, and also the parents' involvement. While when we are talking about the students, the parameter will be based on learning access, especially for the online learning access, the health, the performance of the students, and the living areas of the student. The next one, when we are talking about the teacher and the staff, we are going to talk about the lessons or the subject that the teachers teach, the age of the teachers and the staff, the health condition of the teachers and the staffs. Maybe at this level, it is still blurred, but later on, I'm going to dig more on this and I'm going to give you more explanation. The second finding is, the second thing related to parameters is the classifications. So in Kabupaten Bandung, we are having this classification of high risk, moderate risk, and low risk. And in the application of the offline learning, we have phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Let's talk more later on. So these 4 aspects are very important, and they are the one that we are going to see as the points or the aspect of reflection. When we are talking about the financings, all the points that we have discussed here are actually based on the school operational budget from the government. Indonesian government has given the flexibility to use the budget so that every school can use or can plan their budget for any necessary cost. It is interesting when Mr. Aslam mentions about the community's role on helping or supporting the schools. Oh, by the way, my school is a junior high school, so that it is a government junior high school, so that it is a school, this school provides free education for the students. So The one that we have already applied about community support coming from the parents' involvement during this application of the offline learning. Later, we are going to give more discussion about this one. Safe operations. I have already mentioned before about the parameters. So actually, when we are talking about safe operation, Kabupaten Bandung has already had 6 standard operating procedures: school facility preparation, the classroom preparation, the learning process, and then the movement or the dynamic of the students and the teachers or the staff and the guests. So there are the procedures for coming to the school, meaning from the original place to the school, and being at the schools and leaving the schools, meaning after the students having the offline learning. So these things have been decided, have been created, and have been used in some schools. However, there are 3 phases. So the first one is about the prior to the offline learning, and the second one is during the offline learning, and after the offline learning. So we basically put like that. In each point, we have some stages that we have to do. And it's always conducted during the online or offline learning. It doesn't mean that when we are having the online learning, we are not focusing on this point. For example, if a school in Kabupaten Bandung is still conducting the online learning due to the situation, this school has the obligation to still focusing on the formal evaluation of the school and also the facility preparations. That's why they will have also to report their evaluation on the standard operational procedures. However, if they are still in the online learning platform, they do not have to do step 3 and step 4. They will just focusing on the step 1 and step 2. It will be different if the school would like to do the offline learning. All the stages here should be done and should be fulfilled. And during the offline learning and also the online learning, actually, we have the evaluation. However, for the offline learning, we have 4 types of evaluations. The regular evaluation, meaning from the time, each school will have to do the evaluation weekly, monthly. And then the school evaluation will be conducted the same. Parent evaluation, meaning parents are also required to give their evaluations about their students. The formal evaluation coming from the other parties, it can be from the health center or it can be from the Ministry of Education. When we are talking about the after offline learning, there are some activities that we have here. What is it? Let's talk about it later on. I have already talked about the points, the preparation, the design, the policy that our Kabupaten Bandung government has already had. However, even though we have already had these 6 procedures, when we are talking about school readiness, there are variations of result. Schools and educators think that the school is quite ready. As it can be seen here, and some other is quite neutral. Only limited numbers saying that they are not ready. However, when we see the parents here, the parents points more in the neutrality. So what is the impact? The impact here, we have to see that school readiness should be evaluated more and should be monitored more, because the starting point of the school readiness to do the offline and online learning is not really stable time to time. What about the learning? In the application of the policy in the learning, we have talked about the curriculum, the subjects, the schedule, and the platform. Pak Aslam, before mentioning about to educate or to teach, actually, those are the ones that we have already tried to apply. We have already tried to focus more on to educate and to prepare the students' learning ability rather than the mastery of the knowledge. How to do it? Let's see later on in the next part, in the best practice. Previously, Pak Joko has already provided us with the research findings on online learning. Basically, all the findings are in line with the one that I have already seen. Here, this is the result of the questionnaire, asking the parents, the students, and the teachers or the educator or the school headmaster, which learning platforms that they are going to choose if they have that privilege. It's a little bit different, the result from the educator surveys compared to the parents and the students surveys. Parents and students, they focus more on offline learning, the majority, quite significant. However, schools and educators having less, as offline learning is their second choice. They focus more on the other form, that is blended learning. As you can see, the parents and the students, they do not choose the blended learning. They really would like to have the offline learning. It is interesting, actually. What about the students then? In the applications of the school's regulations or policy in this pandemic, we focus on how we can embrace the students. There are some steps. For the very first time, we have already put the criteria whether the students can access online or they cannot access online learning. When they cannot access the online learning, then our schools have provided a program which is called as Guru Kunjung. Guru Kunjungs or teachers' visits means that it is the teachers who come to the area of the students, providing them with the learning facility, such as learning materials, or maybe the assignment, or maybe the test or the evaluation sheet. It's conducted once a week. The teachers are assigned to a selected area based on how many students living in the area, and we have also to decide what kind of area the school live in. If it is the red one, we cannot go to the area. But if it is, say, for example, orange or yellow, then we can go in. Even we are allowed to give some teachings or some explanation or some short meetings with the students. Next, to the selection. The selection actually is related to which student will have the chance to join the offline learning. Kabupaten Bandung has decided the system. The next one is about the readiness. The parents and also students' readiness to join the offline learning are considered. So they can choose whether they would like to join the offline learning or they will not join. When I give a questions relation to whether the students can join the offline learning, the result is fantastic. Parents, students, and educators, they agree that all students must have the chance to join the offline learning. But there should be a system of shifting, meaning not all the students must go to the school at the same time. Why I mentioned that it is interesting, because actually there are criteria for the student who can join the offline learning previously. The student chosen to join the offline learning previously for the students who have no access to online learning. The second one is the student who has learning problem or learning difficulties. And for the students who have the access to the online learning, they are more preferred to be in the online learning. Yet the result says that every parties, the three parties here, they would like to have all the students to come to the offline learning. Ibu Heni mentions about well-being and protections. In Kabupaten Bandung, we put it as trauma healing programs, the sports and outdoor activities. Trauma healing programs are given to the students who have already shown the high level of stress, and it can be done also in each class by doing the fun games, by having the consultation with the counselors. Those are the ones that we have already designed. Talking about the stress, Pak Joko has already mentioned about how online learning has influenced the students' perceptions or conditions. This is the perception on online learning from the parents, the teachers, and a little bit or slightly different for the students. Parents and educators or teachers are asked how difficult online learning is. So if we can see here, both parents and an educator, they think that online learning is difficult. However, what about the students? I don't put the student result, but most of the students says that so-so. The interesting part is about their motivations. They said that the motivation in online learning, joining online learning, is less. So I think this results is in line with their preference, that parents, teachers, and students would like to have offline learning. Although for the for the teachers, there are some other choice that is conducting the blended learning. Let's talk more now the best practice. This is the realizations of how we conduct it. For information, the students in our school, Tuchilinyu Junior High School, age 12 to 15 years old. So for school reopening, the first classification is that the school should be in yellow or green areas. That is for the offline learning or the blended learning. For the black areas, red areas, orange areas, only online learning. I think it's general and common. However, the school will be based later on this classification. Which school having the high risk, the moderate risk, and low risk is decided on this category. Thinking about how many number of the students. So thinking about the areas also and the facilities and also the mobility. This is the general identification. Which school is having a high risk, moderate risk, and the low risk. Deeper criteria is this one. High risk for the students mean that the school having more than 1,000 students. It is in the red areas, the mobility of the student is quite high. Although the students living in the same areas with the school, because Indonesia applies donations, still they are spread it. In the second one, when we are talking about the school, the most important thing is that the school will have to keep the data about the age of the teachers. 75% teachers and staff having the age of more than 40 years, meaning that the school having a high risk. Yet, most of the schools having 75% of teachers and staff with high risk. And we also categorize or evaluate the surroundings. The areas in which close to the central or the entertainment place or the shopping areas will be categorized as the high risk area. The moderate risk will be a little bit different. Schools with 500 to 1,000 students. And then the category for the school especially will be based on the how many guests or people may come to the school, mentioned as the low guest mobility. And then for the surroundings, the same applies. The focus will be on the mobility. The low risk, of course, a little bit different. Here it is written that the school having less than 500 students, but mostly in Kabupaten Bandung, school having more than 1,000 students. This is the real application. After having all the categorizations, then the school will be granted to have or not to have the chance to reopen the school. When they have the chance to reopen the school, applying the offline learning or the blended learning, they will have to see this one. we can see that there are the three phases. Schools, what kind of permissions that they need to do. So if this one school, for example, is in the high risk, so they will have to apply for the written permissions. But if it is in the moderate or low, voluntarily, they can apply or the offline learning or the blended learning or not. While if it is the third phase, meaning if it is the low risk school, they can reopen. The number of the students in each phase that can be done is like this one. 25% first, 50% first, and 75%. The subjects, the difference of the time, the number of the subjects. When Pak Aslam mentions about to educate or to teach, here is the place. What are the content that the school will take or will focus on? And then the trauma healing, we have it in the schedules. The total time of the study. And then another additional support for the well-being. Please take a look to the application here. For your information, in Kabupaten Bandung, we do have now some schools which have reopened the school for offline learning. They apply mostly blended learning. The evaluation is conducted regularly. When the situations of the area is getting worse, each school must close their school again or postpone the offline learning. These are the ones. Thank you, everybody. Those are the ones that I can share. Hopefully, it can give you some insights and more or further questions about how to apply it, the difficulty or the challenges I can share with you. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bu Gilang, for sharing your presentation today.
Okay.
Let me see questions that we still have. What is I know that we are already at the end of the school semester right now.
Yes.
I wonder what is the plan, whether we have a plan in place, at least in your area in Bandung. Is there any policy in place regarding the next semester teaching and learning process?
So actually, this is the policy. Each school will have their authority, whether they would like to do the online learning or the offline learning. When they decide to do the offline learning, they will have to adjust to these regulations. So actually, it is a regulation from Dinas Pendidikan Kabupaten Bandung. However, the decision to open the school or not, it will be given to each school. That's the one. I will take, the example, my school itself. My school, for the next semester, we try to apply the first phase offline learning. So only 25% of the student will come to the school. We are going to teach only 3 subjects, things like that. And the content will be chosen also from the school. That will be the one Ibu Sari. Okay. However, even at present, we do have some schools which have already opened their offline learning, their school reopening. They have done that. But all the categories that I have mentioned, they have already applied it. That's why I can say that school mentioning the readiness actually should be still evaluated as the parents And the students, as the we can say as the outer parties, the second or the third parties involving in the offline learning, they say that schools readiness is a little bit in the middle, although the school saying that they are ready at the most. That's the one. Thank you. And please.
Yeah, as parents of children in school, I'm still really, I mean, personally, are still not really sure about my children going to school. And I think some parents might share similar concern about, you know, all aspects of safety and health issue in the school. And I think teachers too are like that because they're the one dealing with different students, right? So yes. Yeah, I'm still really, especially in Palembang right now, we're still in the red zone currently. I'm not sure in the next few weeks before the school starts. Mm-hmm. So for teachers themselves, I wonder if they do 20, did you say 25% of the students
for the first phase?
So, so they do shift, right? So they will do shift. Mm-hmm. What do you do for the rest of the students who are not having their turn at a time? So are you going to simultaneously have the face-to-face as well as online at the same time with some students in the classroom and some others at home? Was that something like that?
Okay, there are some variations. The very first one is the shifting. So 25% for the first shift, another 25% for the second shift, and gone. It can be in one day. But the other system is that 1 week for one level. So all the students coming to the school, but only for one level. And then the third one, actually the previous plan is that the student who can join the offline learning, the 25% are the students who do not have the access to the online learning. Those are the ones. But this third choice has been not well responded by the parents and the students themselves. Parents and students, they would like all the students to come to the school, so that the third scenario has been changed mostly to the shifting policy. It can be understood as from the survey, I do not put it here on the slide. Students mention the level of difficulty of learning through the online, and the results are in line with what Mr. Joko has already mentioned. I think it's kind of understandable. However, as a teacher, I'm still also concerned about having the offline learning. That's why the procedures about mobility is one thing which is unique actually. As during the first phase of the opening of the school, parents must escort the students to go to the school and also to pick up they must escort their children to go to the school, and they must pick up the students after school. It considering with the use of transportation, based on the survey, most of the students actually in my area using the public transportation or walking to the school. That's the one.
That's right. Not all parents can facilitate the pickup and drop off every day, especially when you have more than one child to pick up. So that could be a challenge for all of us. I'm not really sure how that will go next semester. Hopefully we will find a solution for parents who opt to keep their children at home for their safety. You know, it could be challenging too for parents who are not ready for their children to go back to school. And hopefully there's also some facilities for students who are still want to be at home until the vaccines are ready, I think. Well, anyway, this is a complex issue that we are dealing right now. A very in some cases we want there are parents who want their children to go back, and then school also have to be ready for that. And I think there's a lot of issues on that, and hopefully this is the beginning of discussion and the some recommendation later on for the policymaker, the stakeholders to consider. And I think this is near the end of our session today. I'd like to thank all the presenters who have presented their topics today. And I would like to have a closing session where I will invite all the presenters to all join us in this session. Ibu Gilang, if you can kindly, yes, take down that so we can see everyone here. Pak Joko unfortunately had to leave us early for the class that he's teaching, but we still have Dr. Aslam Khan, Dr. Hani Herawati, and Bu Gilang Devianti. So I would like to invite all the presenters to give their closing remarks regarding our topic today. So we've been talking about the new normal in education, innovations and best practices in challenging times. I would like to invite Dr. Khan, Dr. Aslam Khan, to have a closing remark. Dr. Aslam Khan, I think you are still on mute.
Thank you, Busari. Can you hear? I think I'm on now, yeah?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Thank you to all the presenters. I've learned a lot from your presentations too. Yeah, I think the new normal, it is something that is going to be there. But I can see that, you know, places are all reacting. Okay, whether we are going to, whether we are reactive or proactive, that's another question that we need to know. Because the pandemic is here. Whether we like it or not, it's going to be there. You know, unless the vaccine is available for everyone and the vaccine is truly effective. All right. So, but as academics or as educationists, we cannot sit still and wait for things to happen. We have to initiate. I know, you know, even in Malaysia, we have all these, you know, restrictions. We have, you know, we call it a EMCO, you know, CMCO, you know, movement control orders, whether it's enhanced or, you know, restricted and things like that. But education cannot stop. Learners cannot have a stop to gaining knowledge and information. So, like what I mentioned in my presentation, just do it. Just contextualize according to where you are. Because education is in our blood. Whether you like it or not, it is in our blood. And our students, they look up to us. We are their mentors. Every day, students look up to us. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing for them? Don't give up hope. In education, there is always a solution in context. So that's what I believe in. Just go there and make the best of the resources you have. Make the best with all the support you have. Make the best with all the students' abilities who are there looking up to you and waiting for you to give them the knowledge. So in Bahasa Indonesia, we always say this, para pendidik, silakan berikan yang terbaik kepada anak-anak bangsa Indonesia secara yang terbaik dengan apa sekali yang ada untuk membina satu bangsa Indonesia, satu generasi Indonesia yang akan membawa kegembiraan, sukses kepada negara Indonesia. Bukan saja di Indonesia, tetapi di platform dunia, di platform internasional. Sama-sama kita berjuang, sama-sama kita bersemangat untuk bangsa, anak-anak, dan generasi Indonesia yang akan datang. That's my main thing, you know. So please, don't stop. Keep on thinking. Be the reflective practitioner. As long as we are a reflective practitioner, solutions won't desert us. Solutions will be there. Don't look only at the problems in the right hand, because Tuhan Allah Subhanahu wa taala bagi kita dua tangan. Masalah di tangan kanan, buka di tangan kiri. Solutionnya ada di tangan kiri. Insyaallah, God willing, we will prevail. Tapi niatnya bagus ya. Niatnya pasti bagus ya. Ingin memberi yang terbaik kepada anak-anak. That's what I think. That's what I practice, yeah.
Thank you very much, Pak Aslam, for great motivation and sharing that we are, as teachers, we have to find the solution and do our best to navigate the situation, and God is always with us in anything that we do. So if we believe in there will always be a way. Thank you so much for reminding us to that great power above us. So that is a very great source for motivation today. And I would like to invite Ibu Heni, Dr. Heni Herawati. At the end of her presentation, I promised to give a time for sharing one of the resource that Ibu Heni has done in her class that might be of our interest to apply in our classroom. Bu Heni.
I agree with Dr. Aslam. Students are the main characters in the story of this new normal education. So language learning in this new normal should also consider the students' well-being, as I mentioned in my presentation. And as mentioned also by Dr. Aslam, self-fulfillment needs need to be looked into and taken care of. And there are various ways that we can do, as simple as greeting them personally, asking how they're doing, to providing them a space for expressing their emotions, their feelings. With one of the tools can be by using creative writing, and by not only that, but probably also assisting them or helping them to develop into a more mature person, and to deal with the pandemic and to make decisions on how to respond to this adversity. And also, I also encourage teachers to wisely use technology, of course, to enhance students' engagement and connectedness. And as I promised Busari, I'd like to just share for a minute the page of the poem generator. Okay, may I share my screen, Bu?
Yes, Bu Heni, go ahead.
Yes, all right. So that's the name of the platform, poemgenerator.org.uk. From this, you can actually choose the types of poem that you want to write. Let me show one example. This is creating a concrete poem So what you need to do is to type in the words here. So there's already a space here, choose a shape, and then a noun, and then a color, and then a size, and then 3 more adjectives, for instance, to describe. So this is, I think, a very interesting and a fun way of learning the language. This is the example of the result. Okay, but sometimes, you know, as I mentioned previously, it depends on the purpose. So use it wisely, depending on the purpose of your teaching. Another example that I'd like to share is this one. This is a very simple app that you can download from Play Store freely. The name is Texting Story Chat or Story Maker. Okay, so after you download, you will be able to write stories in a form of chats. Okay, so I'll show you the examples here. This is my student's text story. We call it text story. So it's not in a form of narration like paragraphs like that, but the story is developed through the chat messages. I think students will be very interested in, very excited in doing this, because this is close to them. They chat every day. Okay, so I think with different purposes, not only for developing stories, but for other purposes, this app will be interesting to be used. And after you type in the dialogues, then the result can be downloaded. It is in a form of video, a very short video of 3 to 4 minutes. And then usually I ask my students to upload it to the YouTube, unlist it, and then share with the classmates and probably some others that they know. Okay, so some other time I will show how it works, but it looks like, the video looks like chatting coming just like we look at our phone, and then the chats coming in, okay, and out, and these chats form a story. So this is a very interesting and engaging, especially for young people. And I'm not so tech savvy, but I learned from my colleagues. So I think the willingness to learn from young lecturers, young teachers who are more tech savvy. Okay, so I have some colleagues who are very helpful and kind, and they're willing, okay, I want to do this, but I don't know how to do this. What kind of app that I can use? What kind of platform that I can use? And then they usually teach me how to do it. Okay, so I think collaboration with colleagues are also important in order to perform well as teachers to serve students. Thank you, Pusari.
Thank you, Bu Heni, for sharing. Collaboration is the key in here. So always collaborate with your fellow teachers or lecturers so that we will not always be alone in facing these challenges. Thank you again, Bu Heni, and I would like to invite Ibu Gilang Asri Devianti to have a closing remark.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Sari. Student needs and students' well-being, they are the two things that we have to consider most above everything. I do agree with Pak Aslam and also Ibu Heni and also Pak Joko. Mostly schools are waiting for the policy. So the application usually will be top-down approach, waiting from the above, the government and everything. But I think it will be better for us to start, because we would like to give our best, right? There is no such a perfect things in this world, but start everything with Bismillah. I think that is the basic thing. Just focus on our students' needs and well-being. But of course, this effort cannot be done without any calculation. That's why data is very important. We need to have the real data. about the schools, about the students. We cannot say that our school is ready to start the offline learning without having the real data on the facility, on the health situations. It's simple, it looks simple, but from the health factors, see the age of the teacher staff, for example, if they are more than 75% above 40 years, then what should we do after that? Are we going to postpone or are we going to prioritize them to get the vaccines? It's very important. And what about the data from the student? It is not only about the mark, the assignment, but we have to focus more also on the other factors, their economical situations, because it has something to do with their ability to access the online learning. We have also think about the impact to the learning performance and the evaluation results. After we get the real data, really real data, then monitor and evaluations, they are very important. Without them, all the data will be useless. And we have to be honest about the data, whether we are ready or not. That's very difficult sometimes. And the last one that I would like to say, as I come from Kabupaten Bandung, who basically use Sundanese, there is one term that we call as sabilulungan. So the policy here that comes or apply in Kabupaten Bandung actually based on the term sabilulungan. Sabilulungan means collaborations. Collaborations among the educators, all the parties, the parents, the students. I think there is no limit about it. Let's do together and let's work in a good way. Bismillah. That is all the best I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bu Gilang, for the final remarks. And again, thank you so much, all the presenters, for our collaboration today, going back to the keywords here, collaboration. And I hope our collaboration today to discuss the issues in education and learning amidst the pandemic will give us some insights and information or any tips that we might implement in our classroom and inform us in making our decision. Thank you again for this opportunity to be with us today, all the presenters and great participants today for your questions and participation. I think I will end here for our session. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and I hand it over to the host, Nyimas.
All right, thank you very much, our moderator, Dr. Sari Silviani, and all distinguished presenters for the worthwhile discussion. Now, before we dismiss this webinar, let's take some pictures for documentation. So please turn on the, okay, already. We have Hari and Rizky also as a committee here. Right, so let's take two pictures. The first one, on my count, 3, 2, 1. All right, one more time. 3, 2,
do we have
1. Okay.
Do we have Pak Aslam, Nyimas?
Yes.
Do we have Pak Aslam with the camera on? No, not yet.
Yeah, it's on already.
Okay.
Okay. Now we've come to the end of today's webinar. Thank you very much for the attendance of our participants and also the discussion delivered by our presenters. And before we really come to the end, I'd like to share some information to the participants regarding the e-certificate. It will be sent to your email address that you have already filled out in the attendance form, as well as the material from our presenter today will be also sent to your email. And we have some social media pages that you can get the update from about our event. So please make sure that you are following our Facebook, Instagram account, and our Telegram channel. And also make sure that you are subscribing to our YouTube channel because we always upload the videos of our webinar. And you can rewatch our previous webinars from June. And we have several webinars already with very different topics there. It's really good for you if you are subscribing to our YouTube channels. since you will be able to watch or rewatch our webinars. And my high appreciation to all presenters and all participants of this webinar. Thank you everyone for joining us. See you on our next event. Bye. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah,
Thank you all the team.
Thank you, Pak Aslam, Bu Heni, Bu
Thank you, Pak Aslam, Bu Heni.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bu, Bu Prof. Chuzaima, Bu Sari, Bu Heni, Bu Gilang, Bu Nyimas, Bu Rizky, Pak Heri. Thank you all in Palembang.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you. Hope to see you on site someday, Pak Aslam. Thank you.
Insya-Allah. Let's doa sama-sama.
Terima kasih. Ibu Heni juga mudah-mudahan Ibu Gilang bisa ketemu dalam face to face di acara di mana saja di Indonesia. Pak Aslam juga mudah-mudahan ada kesempatan nanti. Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam.
Assalamualaikum everyone.
Waalaikumsalam Ibu. Terima kasih.
Ibu Jaima and team, thank you very much. Sorry for making you stress. Okay. Yeah, bye-bye. I will send everything after this, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Gilang.
Yeah.
Nyimas, apakah masih ada lagi yang perlu di ini atau kita mau end di webinarnya? Apakah masih ada?
Sertifikat buat presenter sudah selesai, Bu. Nanti Nyimas kirim ke grup ya, Bu ya.
Oke.
Participants proses setelah ini.
Ya, YouTube-nya bisa juga di stop mungkin.